This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Delicious chips and salsa. Thanks, Juanitas.
I'm addicted to these chips.
They're the best. Shout out to Juanita's deep fried tortilla chips.
They're cheap too.
Yeah. Pretty sure there's 3 ingredients.
Yeah. That's why Jessica likes them so much.
Oh, 4. There's lime.
Limey bastard.
So, what we're actually talking about today won't be chips. It will be Chapter 11, The Road to Taren Ferry.
Do you think they had some chips on them?
Maybe something like chips.
Yeah. Hardtack.
Something like that.
So they're pretty much at a hard gallop right in the beginning. They are off to the races.
Yeah. Lan tries to drive them as quickly as possible towards Watch Hill, which they have to get to first.
Because they've just seen a dragkhar, so they know they're being tracked. Or they know that they're being looked for.
Yeah. So the dragkhar show itself at the end of the last one? Or?
Yeah, he flew over the moon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Rand saw him, but I don't think it saw them.
Gotcha. But it will.
Yeah. So this chapter kind of starts off with just a whole bunch of paragraphs about Rand's needing to help Egwene. I was sort of reading through that going, man, he talks about that a lot.
Yeah, that's really significant. He has this idea that Egwene shouldn't be there taking the risk, she shouldn't leave the 2 rivers even though she is, and he's worried about her.
Which sort of gives you his emotional state at that point of just the one thing he wants more than anything else is to make sure that Egwene keeps up.
Yeah.
He sort of thinks, accumulates in the quote, his skin prickled, and his bones felt if they were freezing, ready to split open. The light helped her run, and Bela ran. And I think that is a very accurate description of Rand channeling, especially that feeling of his bones freezing, ready to split open.
Yeah.
I feel like that's used a lot more.
Oh, yeah, that's used all the time.
Mm-hmm.
From that same paragraph, it also says he silently tried to will strength into her. And then you read that, the bones freezing and splitting into ice sensation and the skin prickling, and he's clearly channeling here.
Yeah, he's I'm not sure if he's just taking the tiredness from Bela. He's also seems to be making her run faster.
Yeah. And when Moiraine notices later, she doesn't seem to really understand what's happened.
No.
So it's probably something not quite like what she does, or what she's does for the party in a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah, because she basically, they run for what, 20 miles, would you say? I mean...
Yeah, probably somewhere around there. It's tough to guess, but I figure they are galloping for around an hour.
Yeah.
Which would be about 20 miles,
20 miles. Yeah, I mean...
suspect.
Sure. And they get to Watch Hill.
Yeah.
Super fast.
They kind of pull up outside of the town, and Rand is surprised when he notices that they're there already. And he has the thought that no one has probably ever made the ride that fast, which I'm sure isn't true. But
I mean, you never know. It's possible that maybe not never, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But there's usually wouldn't be a reason to sprint between these 2 places.
No, I mean, most people are probably just, why would you need to get to Taren Ferry? Why would you need to get to Emmons Field?
The tobacco will cost the same tomorrow. It doesn't,
exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, the wool's not going bad.
Yeah.
So once they get there, they pull up, and she starts to basically take the weariness away from the horses and the people.
Yeah. They pull up right outside of the town, and she walks around doing that when the dragkhar just drops out of the sky, and it looks like it heads for Rand specifically.
Yeah, I think it's trying to terrify them. Honestly, I think it's using terror as a weapon here. It's just basically getting them to run, because it's not crooning, it's not landing. It just sort of swoops over them
and brushes Rand and his horse, which I think is named Cloud.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, he's on Cloud. Just before that happens, we get Moiraine's statement about Bela.
Oh, yeah.
where she is, going around and taking away the weariness. And she looks at Bela and is like, strange as it seems, she may be the least weary of all.
Yeah.
And that's that.
She was like, you called it, Rand.
Yeah.
This horse is a special horse.
That's really strange. Really strange, Rand. Yeah.
Do you think she knows right now, or does she just only suspect? She can only suspect, right?
I think she suspects, and I think it's sort of in the middle of this flight, and she's worried and thinking about all the people, and she probably doesn't think about it too much at this point. But I'm guessing that the second she has a moment and she thinks back and she's like, that was really strange. So she either knows now or has a Heisenberg moment. You got me? So at this point, I think, she knows he channels, whether she realizes it right now or whether it's a realization that comes to her later while she's sitting on the toilet.
So the dragkhar drops from the sky and scares the crap out of Cloud, and Cloud bucks and knocks Rand clear off the horse. And he's just kind of standing there for a second. I think he lands on his feet and manages to hold on to the saddle, but he's knocked out of it.
Yeah, and doesn't Cloud jump up and he gets rattled because they come down pretty hard.
And I think most of the horses do. And then Rand mentions, this is in his head, Rand mentions that all the horses sort of quiet suddenly. I wondered if that was Moiraine.
I'm not sure. I thought it was just the dragkhar flying away.
It could be.
Yeah. He did say also that the only two who didn't have trouble were Moiraine and Lan.
Yeah.
And that's just because I assume they have battle-trained horses.
They do.
Yeah. So I think that's all the rest of them are Two Rivers horses.
This is the same horse they ride, same horses they ride throughout the series, Lan and Moiraine, I think.
Yeah.
Mandarb and I forget.
Aldib.
Yeah, that's it.
Rand pulls that sword just totally unaware. Funny that he has the instinct to go for the sword already when he's threatened.
Yeah.
Lan talks about how he sort of looks natural wearing the sword even from day one, and I wonder if there's just some instinctual memory with that sword because he draws it without thinking, he wears it comfortably, all those sorts of things.
I think there must be, and he really learns much too quickly. Yeah, he really learns much too quickly for it to be anything else, because he does kill a Blade Master in book 2.
Yeah, we'll debate that.
That's really something. Oh, whether or not he kills the Blade Master?
Just the question of, is being a Blade Master as significant in Shan-Chan as it is?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Me too. I do too. And there's certainly something there with the void that Rand is able to tap into.
Yeah.
But I also just wonder, it seems kind of improbable that Rand, who has been using the sword for a year at that point, 4 months of which he spent not in the world because he went through a portal stone.
Oh, right.
So it's he's had 8 months of training with the sword at that point. It seems kind of crazy for him to be.
It does.
That good.
It could be a number of things. Like I was saying when we were recording the last chapter, it could be his Taveren nature shifting events slightly to help him out. And, he doesn't understand his channeling very much at this point in the book. He could have manipulated events just by wanting it to happen and not actually knowing what he was doing.
So he learns at the speed of plot is basically what you're saying. When he learns as fast as the plot needs him to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah. The TV show could do a longer period of time. It could stretch the events of the books out over more than 2 years.
Sure.
I don't think there's any need to compress them as much as they're compressed in the series.
I was wondering why he doesn't get sick here.
Oh, you mean post-power sickness?
Yeah,
Power use?
But I mean also the taint.
Well, the taint is definitely something that builds up over time. So if this is really his first time channeling, which I think it is, then the taint almost has barely touched him at this point. And in terms of channeling sickness, that when Moiraine talks about it, when she's describing it to Egwene later, she says, if you're untrained, there's an effect that happens, but it's delayed. And that delay starts out pretty long and then gets shorter and shorter and shorter until it happens right after you channel, and then it stops. And once the side effects stop, a clock has started. And if you don't learn how to use your power within a certain amount of time, you die.
Yeah.
So he will get sick, and we will definitely talk about that when we get to it, because we'll talk about the sickness that happens from this channeling later. But we will talk about it. It just doesn't happen until much later in the book.
So the party continues to run from there. I think sort of avoids Watch Hill while Moiraine calls this thick fog to hide them from the dragkhar.
Yeah, Lan, he says he asks a question. I assume the question is, "Hey, can you kill that thing?"
Yeah,
and she's like,
"Shoot that thing down."
Yeah, and she's like, "No, it's like they're hard to kill, even
when you can see them, they're hard to kill, or something like that." She's like, "I don't know where it is."
There's a black thing flying around in the sky, tracking them, and it's making noise, but it's impossible to spot.
And then she does this other thing, which is pretty clear when you're reading the dialogue.
Oh yeah.
Because they have that little conversation, and then this fog rolls in out of nowhere, this thick, heavy fog, and Lan's like, it's still going to know where we're going. Like, there's only one way for us to go, I think is what he says.
Yeah, and she says, well, I'm going to use the Fade's cleverness against him.
Yeah.
And Rand notices that she channeled, because he says, it's one thing to know the power was used on Tam, it's another thing to feel power-created fog on your skin, even if it feels the same. And he talks about holding his breath. So he notices she channels. That's how obvious it is.
Right.
Even Rand notices. The most obtuse protagonist we have, at least in the beginning. He misses a lot. They don't try and hide that there. And again, as I'm bringing up fantasy tropes, using a magic user bringing up a fog to hide them is definitely another one of those that happens a lot.
Wizard of Earthsea?
Yeah.
I'm sure we could think of more examples, which were really good. I got into Ursula K. Guin recently. She's great. Really different kind of style.
I definitely read a bunch of her stuff when I was much, much younger, but I don't think I've read it as an adult.
They're like the Wizard of Earthsea books are really they're really short. They're like really digestible. Mm-hmm. You'd read it in like an afternoon. I think I've only read the first one of those so far, and I think it was, I don't know, less than 200 pages.
The one thing that really sticks out in my memory is that they would say morning instead of good morning, because saying good morning could cause things to happen.
No, I don't remember that part.
I'm not sure which of her books that's from. It might even be from one of her short stories where like adjectives or adverbs have effects, magical effects. So anyway, I'll look that up and I may correct that. But yeah, just like the only thing I remember from her books is reading that little tidbit and being like, that's why I always say morning to people now instead of good morning, because I'm always afraid I'm gonna like.
Is it like a knock on wood sort of thing?
Yeah, totally. Except like it actually has a real effect, like provable. Kind of like naming the Dark One in this series.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, yeah, it pretty much causes bad things to happen a couple of times. So don't do it.
I like that. We're like already coming to the close of this chapter.
Yeah, so. This was a really short one. I mean, they're just running basically.
Yeah, through the whole thing. They're just sprinting.
And I think that it's actually pretty clever to make the pace of the chapter match the pace of the characters. It's a sprint chapter, and we just, because the characters are sprinting, and we just run through it really quick.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to run through it really quick, because the only other thing that I had to say is the dogs bark a lot, and I can't believe they've never been more than a ride away from their village in their life, because they ride this whole way in one night, and they've never been to Taren Ferry before.
Yeah, or they've never been further than that?
No, they'd never been further than Watch Hill. They'd never been to Taren Ferry.
Are you sure? Don't they? Oh, yeah. Because they pull up at Watch Hill, and they're talking about the inn there, and they're like, why don't we go to the inn? And then
the White Boar, I think? Yeah.
Sounds right.
Which they've been to the White Boar at Watch Hill before. And they're like, it's not as good as the Wine Spring Inn. But, we could eat there. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and then we just see Lan have a fun interaction where he starts pounding on the door of the ferryman in the middle of the night, wakes him up, and the guy's just like, get the hell out of here. Like, I don't run the ferry at night. Like, wait until morning. And Lan grabs him by the wrist and just starts putting coins in his hand until the ferryman's face is significantly pale, I guess, and says, and I'll give you that amount again if you get up right now and do this immediately.
Yeah, I mean, the Hightower gets rich off of this thing. He gets that gold, plus the gold that he ends up getting when Moiraine sinks his ferry.
Yeah.
Because she pays for it, basically.
Which is worth enough to buy a new boat at least.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
So
Moiraine has to sink it at the end of the
well,
next
I mean,
one.
it's a platform, right? They barely even
Yeah, it's just
they mostly just haul themselves across on the rope.
a floating barge. Yeah, and I think they just pull themselves with this rope.
Yeah.
Goes across.
But we'll see that here in a second when we go into the next chapter.
Yeah. Damn, we burned through that.
We got some feedback that we didn't really talk about ourselves all that much, and where we're from and what we're about. And I know I certainly don't enjoy doing that, which is sort of why I skipped over it. Talking about myself is probably my least favorite thing to do. So I was thinking that maybe I could talk about Patrick, and Patrick could talk about me. Which is, of course, also really embarrassing because I'm sure I'll get some.
We're winging this.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll get some really obvious things wrong and miss some other things. But Patrick is from Jersey. What part of Jersey are you from?
I'm from North Jersey.
North Jersey.
Real close to New York. I was born in Newark, New Jersey.
New York. Okay.
Everybody's favorite city.
And how long did you live there?
For the most part, I lived there for the first 20 years of my life.
Why'd you
I lived
leave?
in New York City for a little while. I was just sick of it. I was tired. Didn't like it anymore.
Oh man. You got
Or
sick of
wouldn't
Jersey.
put up with it, I feel like is probably
Right.
more accurate.
Right.
Yeah, I moved away from New Jersey right after I finished The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, for the first time.
Kind of coincided.
And I know, sort of the big thing you've done is hike the Appalachian Trail, and then a couple years later you went out and hiked the Pacific Coast Trail.
Yeah.
So the AT and the PCT.
I'm an addict. I really like endurance sports. And when I can, I don't work for 6 months and just hike every day. I wish I could live like that. So every couple of years, I would like to do a trip like that. Like to keep that up.
And I'm extremely jealous, but I'm more of a bike guy. I'd prefer to use my legs to pedal than to walk, but
I really like my bike too.
Yeah, no, we do. I mean, here in Portland, we both get around the city by biking. So
Yeah. We live in Portland now.
yep, Portland, Oregon. We both got fed up with our old lives and moved out here and started over.
I tried to go for a bike ride the other day. Oh, look at this. I'm going to show Seth my arm.
Oh, that's a nice burn.
I got a perfect line in the
Yeah,
shape of
yeah.
a t-shirt. So it's like, it's 90, but it's a random hot day in the beginning of the hot months, and I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna let the sun hit me today.
Yeah,
Yep.
me and Jessica went out to the park, and Jessica's my girlfriend, by the way, and we were out in the sun for just a little while, and we both got pretty red on our faces. And just came back inside. It gets so dark here in the winter that you miss the sun, and you can get
Yeah, I think
Get
it was
pretty red
paler
pretty
than
quick.
I even thought.
right. Well, and you redheads.
Yeah. I'm pale whatever happens, but even paler than usual is pretty bad. Seth from, what do we say, Virginia?
Yeah, we can say Virginia.
Seth grew up in a couple different places,
Right.
but
I moved around a fair amount. Born in Canada, Nova Scotia. Not that I remember it, but I definitely feel that I owe Canada some loyalty.
what's up, Canada?
Hey, Canada.
You're a significant portion of our downloads as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate
Probably 10, 20%, I think. 10?
Oh, who knows?
10%?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. I think you're our third biggest country, behind Norway. Come on, Canada. You're on the same continent. Let's pick it up a little bit, guys. Surely you can beat Norway.
I don't know. I wonder how the populations compare. I have no idea.
I don't either. I mean, I know it's cold in both places, and that's about the extent of my knowledge of Norway. Other than the fact, socialized healthcare. I suppose that maybe that helps make you a fan of The Wheel of Time.
I meet a lot of Northern Europeans on backpacking trips.
Oh yeah.
Traveled with a guy for a while while I was doing the PCT that was Swiss. So there was a couple Norwegian guys, lots of German guys for some reason are all into it too. I guess they got some sizable mountain ranges around there.
Totally.
Austria and.
Do they have any issue with just the length of the trails?
Well, everybody does.
Right. I mean,
walking 2,000 miles is problematic.
Geez, right. But I mean, just in Europe, you're going to walk a couple hundred miles, you'll be in a different country.
There's some pretty big trail systems. I really can't speak from experience. I just kind of fantasize about like going one day. There's a big trail system it had a strange name. I think it was just like a series of letters and numbers, but a big network of trails like in the Pyrenees that go like down through France and stuff. There's a big trail in Scotland. And those are just long trails.
Mm-hmm. When you say long,
not just climbing mountains and stuff, but like when I say long,
yeah.
I guess when I say long, I mean like 150 miles or more.
Okay. Because when I say long, I mean like
trail.
A 10-mile hike.
I mean something that like would take you at least a week.
Okay. You're talking about a trail that takes you a season or two.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I feel like on a totally different scale. Like instead of taking a vacation, you take a year off or 6 months off. Like that's.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle change.
Totally.
It's also a weird thing to do to your head because then you have to live free for 6 months and then come back and be like, oh, fuck, rent? Oh, this is stupid.
When I met you, you had just
jobs.
You had just gotten off the AT and you moved into the place and moved into your room, and it was just the funniest thing because you camped in the middle of your room for like a month or two.
Oh yeah, I still didn't really have possessions.
No,
I had like ditched mostly everything I owned at that point in my life.
Well, it wasn't just that; it was that you'd pack in and pack out of your room every day. Like everything in your room would go into your backpack in the morning, and then like it would come back out at night when you'd be ready for bed. It was the funniest thing because like you'd leave your door open, I could see in, and it was like literally nothing in the room except like a backpack and a bedroll.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I also got sort of weirdly ritualistic about closing up and
the opening back up. Yeah. No, so I mean, I
forgot about that.
It's a little weird from an outside perspective. Like you come back into civilization, it's weird to see.
Yeah.
You know?
I also at that point had been like living, like before I hiked the Appalachian Trail, I was just kind of bouncing around a lot. I was doing this activist work and stuff, and I just kind of lived on a bus out of a backpack all the time. So I was like really accustomed to it. I've been doing it for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, welcome back to civilization.
Yeah. It's all right. There's a lot more people here. It has its ups and,
ups and downs.
Pros and cons.
Right. But, I feel that puts you sort of in a unique situation to understand some of the marches that happen in these books and some of the walks and some of the really long... when you're reading it, it's not just an abstract thing. You can relate it back to, oh yeah, I remember when I had to cross that mountain in that blizzard and, across the snowpack and I had a rock in my foot. And I am a little jealous, but at the same time, I'm really glad I haven't gone through that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, I think even like people who run long distances, I run a little bit too, and I'm not great, but say like it's kind of an addiction to not being punished, but the difficulty, like how runners joke about how they're masochists, I guess. Yeah, because sadist is the inflictor, right?
Right. It's a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of that runner's high.
Totally.
And that exercise high that you can get. Your body feels good when you've been exercising.
And you get to escape.
Right.
By the way, I picked up some fried chicken before I came over to Seth's place to record this, and I've been like chewing on it this whole time. This is probably, I apologize for that.
No.
I don't know if it's being recorded or not, but probably.
I'll do some editing and hopefully get rid of it. But if I miss any, sorry guys. It's really good fried chicken. It's this corner store that we walked by.
It's just a little bodega.
Totally. And honestly, some of the best fried chicken I think I've had.
I think it's called Alberta Market.
Alberta Market, on Alberta Street. Like Alberta and like 10th or something like that.
We're in Seth's place is in Northeast up here.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my dog.
Someone's near the house.
It's our neighbors come and go, and they have to walk right by our front door. So he barks at them almost every time.
Oh yeah,
Timber.
you should introduce your dog. He's already in the podcast a little bit. You can hear him in the background sometimes.
Every once in a while, I hear like a little jingle. Timber, come here.
I think I might have caught a squeaky toy at one point in the recording.
Yeah, he's not super vocal.
Gives a character.
Yeah, he just went through TPLO surgery, for those of you who want to Google it. Where basically he blew out his ACL.
Just limping around with a shaved leg.
Yeah, and we're really supposed to keep him quiet and sedated. So, yeah, he's just settling down at our feet. But the poor guy, he's got one bad hip and one bad knee, and unfortunately they're not on the same leg, so he does a lot of limping.
Oh, jeez. Good dog.
Yeah, I love that dog. Anyway, yeah, what else? If you've had breakfast in Portland, chances are Patrick's had something to do with it.
Oh, no. Don't tell everyone where I work.
I won't, don't worry. But
it's a popular breakfast
It's a popular breakfast spot in Portland, so don't.
Or maybe do it. No,
you don't want. The last thing you want.
That's kind of weird.
Although, Wheel of Time fans coming in, being like.
It might be sort of cool.
Might be a little cool.
Figure it out.
Yeah. You know he's got the buckler and shield chapter heading
tattooed on my left arm.
Tattooed on your left arm. So if you go into a popular breakfast joint in Portland and see a guy with a buckler and spears,
you
say
can collect
hi.
enough information to figure it out.
Right.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast client.